I don't want to hear any of my fellow Jews clutching their pearls about blood libel ever again. Because there is no libel to it anymore, is there? It's blood-soaked fact. If you're not familiar with what blood libel is, allow me, as a former, if you can believe it, anti-Semitism educator, yes, Jewish organizations used to pay me to talk to them about combating anti-Semitism. And I spent a lot of time teaching people what blood libel was. So here's what I say about it in my book, Genocide Bad. By the medieval period, the accusation that Jews kidnapped and used the blood of Christian babies specifically to make matzah for the Passover Seder was used to justify massacres of Jews and the theft of their property. Quick recap. There is zero credible historical evidence that any Jews ever did such a thing. The medieval Christian church made up stories like this to manufacture hate toward Jews, Romanis, Christian heretics, and indigenous European faiths alike as a divide and conquer tactic. This story effectively distracted peasants from realizing that church leaders were the ones who were stealing all their wealth and keeping them in poverty so the Pope could build giant gold cathedrals. This divide and conquer ruling strategy still works great for gold-loving property developers today. See Donald Trump. And later I go on, anti-Semitism educators, like I used to be, spend a lot of time online endlessly repeating that no, Jews don't and never did kidnap babies and kill them for use in religious rituals. The hateful allegation of blood libel is something our community has been fighting for over 1,000 years. But then along came the state of Israel, and they slapped a Star of David on their flag and claimed to speak for all Jews everywhere. They have made themselves synonymous with Judaism as far as Western governments and media are concerned. And you know what else they've done? They've routinely kidnapped, tortured, and massacred children throughout every year of their existence. And now, this army of Jews from this country of Jews that stands for all Jews everywhere, according to their own propaganda, is starving thousands of babies to death. Babies should never be this tiny. Babies should never lose weight. They should only ever be gaining weight. It is the responsibility of all grown-ups in the world to ensure that all our babies are only ever getting fatter. And there is infant formula to feed all these babies. There are trucks and trucks full of infant formula waiting right outside the border of Gaza. But the Jewish army with the Jewish flag on their tanks and their trucks and their guns won't let that formula in. Take it from an anti-Semitism educator, the Jewish army is starving thousands of babies. And I would posit that this blood fact is actually so much worse than anything medieval Christians ever imagined about us and said about us to justify their massacres. Killing one baby once a year for a Passover Seder compared to mass starving thousands of babies so that they die an agonizingly slow, torturous death while their families have to watch. And then that's not all. That's not the end of the cruelty. Because these sick, demented fuckers have developed a food distribution system so that the fathers and brothers and uncles who've been watching their kids they love starve to death have to run across a Squid Game style killing field in order to try to score a bag of flour. And hundreds of Palestinian men have braved these killing fields and been mowed down by guns and snipers and tanks just trying to get food to feed their starving families. And they've made the people so desperate that they're even starting to turn on each other and kill each other for food. Now, don't get it twisted. The fact that the self-proclaimed Jewish state is mass murdering babies now doesn't mean that the blood libel of medieval Christian Europe was true. Jews in Europe then were an oppressed, racialized minority suffering under incredible violence in a Christian supremacist system. And Zionists are Jews who took that experience as instructive. And when they were given lots and lots of guns and money from the UK and the US to establish a colony in Palestine to prevent the emergence of a pan-Arab empire, they created a Jewish supremacist society, and they enacted a kind of violence on Palestinians who became the oppressed, racialized minority within their own homelands, and have far outstripped not only the violence that medieval Christians imagined of them, but the violence that medieval Christians did to them. And so the reason I'm not an anti-Semitism educator anymore is because I was in that line of work because I was against all hate and all genocide. And all of us that feel that way right now, Jews and Gentiles alike, should recognize that the number one thing we need to be doing right now is demanding that infant formula enter Gaza as a start to shutting down the Zionist project that has made Judaism synonymous with mass murder, so that the term blood libel has become, in the modern day, blood fact. All I see when I close my eyes are a year and a half of blood facts perpetrated by the state of Israel. Normally, I end my videos with a fundraiser, but no amount of fundraising is going to bring infant formula into Gaza. So my call to action instead is that you make a ruckus, make public speech, use whatever platform you have, get with other people and figure out how you can organize to amplify your voices as loud as possible to tell people that Gaza is in critical need of infant formula, that thousands of babies are being starved to death, and Israel must lift the siege and allow infant formula to enter Gaza now.